Thank you for tuning in to Ungentrified with Kent Johnson. Ungentrified takes an unfiltered view on pop culture, music, television and film, politics, current events, and topics central to the worldwide Black community. Ungentrified is a safe audio space for celebrating Black culture in its purest form. What up, good people? It's your boy Kent back with another very special episode of Ungentrified. Of course, I have my favorite person B here with me.
Hello.
And we are here to discuss episode 9 of season 4 of Insecure. Episode 9, which was Lowkey Trying. And let's go ahead and get into it. So well, first off, shout out to Kerry Washington who directed this episode.
I know, that was really cool. I'm glad to see. So even one of our old school, I mean, she's not really that old school, but I mean, she is a little bit old school. We didn't get to see like a person on screen. She's our old school flashback from, older movies, and she was behind the camera. And it's also nice to just see, a woman behind the camera for a change.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice.
Yeah, and the episode, I don't know about for you, but to me it had a different tone. You could tell someone different was behind the camera, but it still felt like an Insecure episode. Like it was just little things. It was like, oh, that must be Carrie's like little razzle dazzle on
Is that
the
the
Insecure
technical
world.
term?
Yes, that is the official production term.
I just kind of felt like it was just, I don't know. I understand what you're saying. The tone was definitely different. And I just kind of felt like, I thought maybe it was just the mood of the episode, just because it was kind of like going, not all over the place, but a lot of things happened in this episode. Like we went a lot of places in this episode.
Right. It was we bounced around a lot. And I think that was also too because we had gotten used to the last couple episodes being very focused on people. Like, we had the Issa only episode, then the Molly only episode, then we had just Issa and Lawrence, and now I feel like everybody came out to play
we
for a
even
little
saw the
bit.
brother too.
Yeah.
So,
So there were a lot of scenes here where it was people by themselves. Away, like a lot of conversations happening over phones or in isolated spaces, and then of course we had the group coming together in the end. But so we start off the episode, and to me it felt like a dream sequence when it started. So we see Lawrence and Issa playing house essentially. Like they've been holed up in Lawrence's spot, and they've been
it made me think of quarantine times.
Right.
I was like, oh wait, they're not quarantined.
Right. They were all up on that green couch, every which way.
Blessing it.
Right.
When I was thinking about how we were saying like we were all over the place, I wanted to be like Lawrence and Issa on that couch. Yes.
Right. Fun fact. So when they were shooting the scene, that opening scene, the sex scenes in that opening scene, Carrie wanted to shoot one more round, but Issa and Jay Ellis were starving. They were so hungry. They were like, no, we can't do no more. And that's why we see them eating pizza as one of the moments in the montage. They were actually eating because they were starving.
I just thought that was like a good way to end I don't want to say like a banging session, but I mean, that is. I'm married. Right. I'm married, so I don't have those anymore. But I do eat a lot of pizza.
And I think it was important for all of those things to happen on the green couch, because that's kind of like a safe zone for both of them. It's something that's familiar to both of them.
But it was nice to see them back together, and it was kind of like because like we ended our discussion last week saying, I mean, where do they go from here? Is this over? Is this the start of something new? Like we didn't know. Like, is he gonna get that job? I mean, our minds were all over the place with like what
Mm-hmm.
was gonna happen next. And it seems kind of like even though they're together, I mean, it starts with them being together, humping around. They still haven't talked about what they are or what's going to happen next. So I thought that was really cool to have that conversation with them because they were kind of feeling things out and letting it unravel in front of us.
Right, right. And Issa brings it up like, I like what this is, whatever it is, because they hadn't
Hmm.
really had that conversation, like you said. But we do get some tidbits on the couch. We see that Nathan is still around, and he's been texting Issa about helping him move into his new spot. And Issa trying to be new Issa and not make the same mistakes that she did when they were together before, tells Lawrence, like, hey, Nathan is a guy I used to date. He wants me to help him move in. I don't want there to be no, questions around stuff. I just want to be open about stuff.
Transparent.
Right.
Hmm.
Uh, and in her doing so, she's like, so since I'm offering up information, what's going on with you in
Indola.
condo? Right. Is Dola Dolo? Because you done left her alone?
Maybe.
Right. But he says that's done. It's canceled. It's done. We had a talk. It ain't no more. She Condola
Yay, no
is
break, baby.
right, no break baby. She is condonzo. Like she is no more.
Condolences.
Right. Condolences to Condola. But
I
yeah,
think we had too much fun.
right. Thank God there's no break baby. I think
Yeah,
a lot of us breathed a collective sigh of relief when we found out that there was no uh, baby Lawrence come in
yeah.
or baby Condola. Um, but yeah, so I think Issa feels a little bit stronger about what's going on, hearing that information, and I mean, but as you mentioned earlier, the fact of the matter is San Francisco is still kind of hovering over the situation. So he's still
Mhm.
interviewing and heading back up there for another round of interviews. So he could very well be out of here
Yeah.
pretty soon. So,
Do we know about
uh,
any contracts or anything? Because sometimes that's how you find out if people get the job.
right, right, right.
Like, oh, he's not gonna be on the show. Or if they sign on to other shows. I know that like towards the height of Walking Dead, that's you and I used to be like, oh, he just got a new TV show. He's gonna be dying soon.
Right. Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I haven't heard anything about that. I know he's been popping up in more movies lately, Jay Ellis, but I haven't heard
Hmm.
anything about that. I mean, he really is a main character, even though it feels like he's not around as much as maybe Eason and Molly are. But it really does center around those three.
Yeah, I
Um,
think they're the top three. I would want to be like it's Sex in the City. It's those four ladies, but it's not. It's really Molly, Anissa, and Lawrence, and then whoever else comes in contact with them. So
hmm
yeah.
right,
So hopefully he's not gone. And I mean, I don't want him to not have a job, but no, because that would be a bad way. Like when I saw them on the computers together, sitting in front of like sitting in front of the couch, I was kind of like, this is nice for now, but I hope that he doesn't not have a job because
right,
hers
right.
is like in progress, but she doesn't have like anything solid either.
Right, because I'm still not sure if she figured out how to make money off of the event yet. That hasn't really been discussed. uh,
Yeah,
we know she's still making money from being the apartment
the
manager,
superintendent.
right?
Yeah.
The soup, and she does lift too. Even though we haven't seen her do it this season, she's still doing it. She has made reference
The
to it.
lift, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she still has the
Uh,
stickers up on the car.
and it could be that he does end up getting the job and it allows him to work remotely. So, he doesn't
Mm.
have to leave the city. Who knows? Um, but yeah, that's kind of where we are with those two right now.
And I'm
Then
happy with it. I felt good
yeah,
with where we left it.
yeah, because like I said, we've never gotten a chance to see Issa and Lawrence happy.
Happy together,
So
yeah.
right,
And it
and
almost felt kind of like weird though. Like it felt good, but like familiar. Like it wasn't
mhm,
like, oh, I got this new boo, and like that whole excitement behind having it, or it wasn't. And even though they were like kind of exploring the new them, that like the more open and honest them, it still just felt like a long term relationship that was like good. It didn't feel
mhm,
like brand new or anything. So I liked it. It was calm and sexy.
right,
I gave him the sexy.
right, and in saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if that is what we get in season 5, is to see like them be in a relationship.
Hmm.
But who knows? Hopefully I can say, "Ooh, remember when I said that?" But
Mm.
we'll see. So we head over to Molly, who has finally made her way over to Dr. Rhonda's spot.
And not a minute too soon.
Right. And when she got up in there, I was like, go in on her, Dr. Rhonda. Give her all of she needed all. Make
Hmm.
sure she walk out of there feeling devastated by all this information you give her.
And you would
Um,
have thought like her being in there, she would have been like more open to the conversation, but everything was Issa's fault. Wait, is it Issa? Yes, Issa's fault. And I can't even think about, yeah, but it's Issa. Like everything was talking about Issa and how, her impact on her life or whatever. So I thought that was
right.
interesting.
Yeah, and Dr. Rhonda was trying to like lead her to discovery. Like, well, is that like, do you want to be right or do you want to have a relationship with somebody?
Yeah,
Like, because if you fighting even in here, I can't even help you. But
yeah.
uh, Dr. Rhonda really left her with like, you need to figure out if this relationship still serves you.
Yeah.
And
But when she said that, it made me think, I mean, obviously we've all been at this time in our lives, we have had that conversation with ourselves, even if we don't have a Dr. Rhonda, where we're
mm,
like, I really, I've been riding with this person for a really long time, but is this person really still, is this relationship still serving me? And so in that, I almost got like a flipped version of the other question that she asked, which was like, do you want to friend or do you want to be right? Like when I
mhm,
heard, does this relationship serve you? I thought she was kind of like helping her lean more to like, maybe you should just, it's toxic to you right now, so maybe you should move on. But when she asked it the other way, it kind of made me feel like, wait, should she just open up and like make room for her and like have the talk and all that stuff? So I was going both ways in that conversation.
right. Yeah, I feel like Dr. Rhonda gave her okay, this is what I should give everybody who's in this situation, and then let me cater it to you who just who is clearly not gathering what I'm trying to give right now.
Hmm.
So if the relationships that you have with people, whether it's your dad, Torian, your brothers, Issa, whomever, if you find yourself being this negative person in those relationships, do they still serve you? Because I think it's almost like saying it's not everybody else. So if it doesn't
Yeah.
serve you, you got to remove yourself from there. Save these other people by taking yourself out of the equation. Um, because yeah, she's not gonna be happy if she's always got to have something to be right about.
Yeah.
Because she can't let it go. She does not know how to let it go, and we
No.
get
And we
examples of
saw
that.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
All through this episode and with different people. Yes.
Right, right. We saw it with Andrew because Andrew let her know that his brother Victor was coming to town, and was
Hmm.
trying to extend an olive branch by buying him tickets to the game,
Hmm.
and she was like, "I'm not going." Like, I and he asked her like, "Are you gonna be like this forever? Like, are you not even gonna
Because
give
this
him the
is not like my
opportunity?"
homie. This is my
Right,
blood.
right.
He's not going away.
Yeah. So if I'm around, he's gonna be around. Like there's
Yeah.
no. situation, and he's trying to show that, hey, I want to make amends. So Molly can't even understand like people apologizing to her. Like
Yeah.
she always has to be the one, because this is what happened to her dad. When her dad apologized to her, she still didn't do it. She finally had to come around and bring that humble pie, and be open to starting something anew. But she's does not do well with people even accepting that they were wrong, because she wants to be able to tell you were wrong
And
first.
then, yeah, and then let it sit and like let it marinate a bit, and then come back and say, "Well, okay, I guess I give it another chance."
Right, right, yeah. So,
But that's
but
funny because that's me too. Like, I'm not quite Molly, but if I nothing you, I just will never something you again. And nothing is worse than like hating or being mad at somebody. Like, if once you like, my husband will be like, "Wait, are you mad or do you nothing there?" Because if I nothing you, you're in the abyss. Like, you're done.
yeah,
So I feel her on some pieces.
yeah. See, for me, if people, you got to do something like outrageous for me to be like, all right, you know what, we good. And then if that happens, very usually I just won't tell you. I'll just be like, okay, you know what? Let me delete, block, da 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 da, and go around my way. Let me just go, because I don't need to do that. Like, I don't need the closure. I got it from you acting a fool.
I think that's
So,
meaner because I don't try to get closure either. But and it doesn't have to be something that's like that large scale. For me, it's just like if if it's something that just like it's just not flowing correctly. Like let's say I invite you to something multiple times, and every time you got other plans and you just can't be bothered, then I'm like, oh, then you don't have time for this friendship. Let me move on and just move on with my life. It's not
mm,
that I dislike you anymore or don't love you or whatever, but I'm just like, it's not serving me to invite you to things because I already know you just never gonna come. So I'm gonna just move
right.
on with my life.
Yeah, like I said, it takes something outrageous for me. For the stuff that's under the level of outrageous, I'll give you a chance. Like, I won't put you in the position to cut up again. Like, if I know that you are the flake, right, and you never come somewhere when you're invited, I just won't invite you no more. I won't give you the opportunity to be the flake anymore. So,
You're
and
gonna
you can
help
hit me
them
with the,
out.
yeah, if you hit me with the, why don't you invite me nowhere? I don't want to give you the opportunity to disappoint me. So I'm not gonna put you in that space. If I know you're not somebody who I can rely on, I'm not gonna put you in that space. And if I run out of space to not put you in, then you gone. So
Yeah, yeah. Have I been
yeah.
have I been on the on the list before?
And
Because
no,
I came back if I was.
no, I don't think there's a thing that I'm like, oh, you know what, I can't put that on B because she, like, that's not a space that she navigates well in. No.
I'm sure there is, but you can be nice to your listeners.
Like, I mean, I have friends who arrive when we go out to a party. If the party says 7 o'clock, they there at 6:55. So I will
Oh.
never tell them what time the party starts, so that I can control what time we get there. Um,
Hmm.
so, like, I'm not gonna give you the opportunity to have me there setting up tables and mixing punch. And I'm not gonna give you that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just won't tell them the time, or if I know somebody who get drunk everywhere we go, they don't go to the open bar spots for me no more. Like, we go into spots where it's a dry venue. You can't
Yeah.
even, no opportunities.
I
I
agree.
want
I
you to be
agree.
great.
That's that's a good friend actually. I think you're
Right.
being a good friend, but I definitely have those types of people where they're friends for certain things, like a clubbing friend or a wine tasting friend or a book a book club friend, a
Hmm.
work friend. Like I do have friends for different things. I think that's how I decided to like compartmentalize my friendships as opposed to just like getting rid of hot messes. I just say,
Right.
you know what? That hot mess is really good for a party.
Yeah, well, poor Andrew, he's about to compartmentalize Molly into a box to the left and kick her to the
Aw.
curb, because you can see it in his face.
Yeah.
Shout out to the nonverbal acting that was happening throughout this episode, but he is tired
He's
of
been, well, he should be. He's been trying so hard. Like he's tried everything with her, and she always come up short somewhere. So it's but
right.
when it comes to family, and you could tell that he's close to his family. Like as soon as I heard him speaking another language, I was like, "Ooh, who's that?" Because that's a brother or the
Hmm.
sister or who else like could it be? Because like to me, I really enjoyed that piece of it is that they're not just pretending like all other nationalities speak English, even
Hmm.
in their private lives. And so I'm like, oh, who is like that intrigues me. Like, oh, who is that and what's about to happen next? So I assumed that it was the brother and then some stuff was about to happen.
Right, right. And then Andrew's starting to see it blow up in his face for him covering for Molly because he was like, with the game, he ended up going to the game. He was like, well, I just told my brother that you had to work. And she was like, well, you ain't have to lie for me. Oh, I
I
don't? Oh, okay.
know.
All right.
I would have been like,
Okay.
thanks. Like that
Right.
was like one less excuse that I would have come up with.
Right. And see, Kent would have been there. All right, let me remove you from the instances where I feel like I got the cover for you and just not be around you no more. But yeah,
Hmm.
he's constantly trying to he's Dr. Rhonda uh but like the at home version for her. Like he gives her the hey, don't you think you should maybe give an opportunity? Or hey, should you do this, do that? And she just be breezing right by it because she's on Molly Street and not thinking about
Hmm.
anybody else. And it is definitely wearing thin on my man's. He is tired of her. But he's still trying to be, good boyfriend,
Yeah,
and
and
make it happen.
his whole like mannerisms, like it's just so like welcoming and invite. Like he's such a calm spirit, which maybe that's just me saying that, but I just get like such a calm spirit from him that he is trying to be like so adaptable, so gentle with her, which is something that she needs, right? Like if somebody, I don't know, maybe she doesn't. Like if someone was trying to check her, it would just be blow ups all the time. And he definitely
Hmm.
tries to tread lightly for her to see if she will absorb that information. And she definitely doesn't.
Right, right. Not a single time.
No.
um, because at this point in the episode, Issa has actually reached out to Molly, right?
Mhm.
She called her when Molly was in the session with Dr. Rhonda and left a voicemail just saying like, "Hey, I think we should meet up and talk." Um, and Molly's kind of playing it to the side. She has agreed to go, but kind of playing it to the side. And Andrew's like, "No, like go do your thing." So they meet up for brunch. And instead of having the conversation that we've been waiting for them to have about the block party, they talking about mimosas and everything else in the world, just dancing around the big elephant in the room. And even this is another example of like the nonverbal kind of stuff when Molly sits down. First off, Molly is very like standoffish.
Standoffish.
Right.
Yeah.
Issa's excited to see her, excited to get this ball rolling back to getting them back to whatever they're supposed to be.
Hmm.
And, Issa reaches in for a hug, and Molly's kind of like, I
She
guess.
like stands
Yeah,
with her arms straight.
right.
That was bad.
Um, she's not the one initiating conversation. Like, Issa's having to push the conversation along. And then Molly even does this like big sigh, like, okay, hurry up and apologize so we can
Yeah.
move on. Just
Hmm.
being real nasty. But eventually she warms up and they seem like they're having a good time. They seem like they're back in good graces, even though they have been dancing around uh, the bigger issue at hand. And oh, and you know what? Let me take a step back. So in Dr. Rhonda's session, Molly says in present tense that Issa is my best friend. Whereas, when you compare that to Issa, who from the moment of the block party was former, ain't no more. Even in
I'm
this,
done with that biatch.
right. Even in this episode, she was like, we used to be best friends. I don't know. Like she's very much at the ending point. But even with all of this stuff that's going on, Molly's like, oh, I can't stand her, but she is my best friend. Like,
Yeah.
she uses the present tense, but she doesn't act that way when she's actually around Issa. Like, she's intentionally trying to make Issa feel bad about the situation,
Hmm.
um, because she won't outright say it. But they leave brunch on seemingly good terms,
But wait, can I just
and
say that I thought the brunch was really gonna, as soon as those mimosas came, I thought that that was good. Because, like when you get a little tipsy off of your little mimosas, then,
then
you
the
just
truth come out.
start, not the truth, but like you just kind of like unwind and just let it all out, right? So you
Hmm.
start talking about one thing and then it moves to the next thing. It's just more freeing than like having to sit down and have this regimented conversation at lunch or whatever. So I really
Right.
thought that the mimosas was gonna, like, they started with, light conversation, and then it was just gonna be like, girl, I'm sorry that this thing happened. Like, can we, move past it? Can we talk about it, or can we do whatever? And they never got there. So I'm glad that they also said that it was superficial conversation, because that's exactly what I was thinking.
Right, right. And Molly knew it, but you participated in it. Like, because Molly tells Andrew, like, it just felt really superficial, but you had an opportunity to, squash everything there and figure out this was it's the reality show meetup. It's the at the end of the day to clear the air meeting, and you didn't do either one of those things. You didn't have an air clearing, and if anything, you just made the inevitable prolonged because you're still walking away with this negativity about that situation, instead of moving on. So you
Hmm.
haven't taken Dr. Rhonda's advice, and you just enjoy being mad about it at this point. You enjoy having something negative to say because really you ain't got nothing else now. Issa's doing well. She she don't need you for money no more. She paying for the brunch.
I know. And
You
so,
know.
wait, so her conversation with herself, Issa, before
Hmm.
she ever even calls Molly, is kind of like, that was growth, right? Because she had the conversation. She wanted to talk to somebody about Lawrence, and the only person she could really think to talk about it with was Molly. But that's when she called her brother, and her brother was like, no help at all.
Right.
He was just kind of like repeating back everything that she was saying. So she was like, this was no help. And then it goes to, like, like if she was gonna call Molly, and the fallout of what that would be like, right? Like,
Hmm.
the only reason why you're calling me is to still talk about yourself. So she was super conscious of the
Right.
conversation that she wanted to have when she did interact with Molly, because she didn't want to blow it up. Regardless of how she felt about, like, this relationship being over, she was still like, I want to come into this without a fight.
Hmm.
I want to let her see that I am thinking of her, and that I'm not even going to talk about myself, and then unless it gets to me. And so in that whole lunch, I mean, that's kind of what she was doing. She was just like, how's this going? I was thinking about you at work. They talked about the brother's baby that he just somehow got collected. I don't know. But so I think that's the only reason why Lisa was like treading so lightly, is because she didn't want to be the one to bring up anything negative, and she didn't want to somehow have it talking about her unless Molly brought it up. And of course, Molly only really wants to talk about herself, and so it didn't come up.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, and then it's funny because earlier in this season we saw Molly kind of having a similar conversation with Andrew. Remember when she was trying to get him to open up about stuff and he was
Uh-huh.
very like curt and short with her, and now she's on the other end and doesn't even recognize that she's doing the same thing.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I think you were absolutely spot on with your assessment of Issa. Um, but yeah, they leave brunch and nothing is resolved. But they're in a quote unquote better space question mark. It's
At
very
least to
open.
Issa, she was like, "You're great."
Right. I love you, girl. Like, see you soon.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was just very unresolved. But um so Issa does eventually head over to Nathan's to help him move. But now that she has Lawrence back in play,
That
she
was
doesn't
awkward.
know how to address the situation with Nathan, and Nathan clearly on the spaces he's like, oh, we've been hanging out again. I helped you out with the block party. We getting in good graces. Um, you single, according to his knowledge, and hey, let's
Yeah.
let's make something happen. So she comes into the spot very adamant about it being clear that they just homies, they just friends.
Hey, bruh.
Right. No hugs, just daps and distance and like I said, terms of unaffection. um
Hmm.
and in her spirit of being honest and open, she tells Nathan like, "Hey, Lawrence is back in my life. We've been hanging out, and I don't know where it's going, but it's in a good space." And Nathan went straight into hater mode.
He did.
Right. Oh,
He did.
and I don't know if it's hater mode as much as it's like, because the conversations that he and Issa have are always kind of about like uplifting each other. He does a lot of uplifting about her. So I
Hmm.
think it was more so if he was like, "Oh, I feel like you might be making a mistake," and a tinge of jealousy with it. But like he was like, "Oh, the dude that you cheated on, that
Yeah.
that
I
one,
think it was mostly jealousy
right?"
because he was like, because the whole conversation, like her explanation of that relationship all came from him flirting with her and like rubbing up on her and was like, oh, I got a payment plan for you. And so she was like, whoa, I don't want them payments. I
Right,
want a
right.
different plan.
Payments are deferred.
Yeah. So so I mean, I kind of felt like it was awkward how she kind of blurted it out, but it was also so it kind of took him aback because he clearly was in the space of, let's start up where we left off,
Hmm.
and it kind of got shot down. And so he was like, not that nigga, like, but it would have been like that with anybody. If she would have said like, oh, I started dating this dude from the gym, she would have been like,
Right.
oh, musclehead, nigga, like he probably would have said something else, right?
Right.
But then he kind of relaxed a little bit and was just kind of like, he opened up to her. So that was the conversation where he opened up about what happened because she clapped back and was like, well, at
Right.
least he don't just ghost people and shut down and stop talking. Like he knows how to use his words, is what she said.
Hmm.
And then that's when he told her about his bipolar, um, him being bipolar. And so I thought that was
Yes.
cool.
Yeah, and because we at the end of last season, when Nathan comes back, he alludes that he had some things he had to figure out, and for most of us, we kind of picked up that this was probably a mental health issue. They didn't outright say what it was,
Yeah.
um, and for the first half of the season, Nathan wasn't in the picture. He didn't come until the block party episode in the flesh. I think we had heard like a message from him somewhere throughout the earlier part of the season, but
Yeah.
yeah, we never got an explanation until now. So it was good for them to kind of bring that back and to have a normal conversation about it. Have it come into the fold and it not be some like a played version of the common symptoms and things like that. Like, he's in a good space and he can talk about it and really be okay with who he is and
Hmm.
understanding who he is now. So it's definitely a great, responsible way to introduce that nuance about Nathan as a person to the show.
Yeah, and it
And
was
it's
like
it's a
really.
real thing.
Yeah, it was a really good thing to see because I mean, like, I think I only know like one person who ever said that they were diagnosed as bipolar. But it's funny because I know you said you didn't watch that show, Modern Love, on Prime, but they had an
On Amazon.
episode. Yeah, they had an episode with Anne Hathaway, who was bipolar, and it was like extremes. Like she was like, it was like a Disney song and dance at one moment, and the other moment she like literally fell off a toilet and like laid down in the bathroom for 3 days or something. So it was like even when she got better, it was still kind of like a huge thing for her. So it was kind of nice that it was kind of like more just kind of like, this is the thing that I'm dealing with. I wanted to share this with you, and I'm fine now, but I'm still working through it. And then they kind of like moved on. So I like that.
Right. And she felt uh really bad about how she had treated him and really how she kind of threw that dart at him earlier before they had
She
that
should.
conversation. Right. Yeah, she
Even if
definitely
she
should.
didn't know, I mean, like, she didn't need to be nasty. You were the one that
Right.
was giving him bad news.
um but yeah, I think that it's definitely a good conversation to have, and it's good representation to have because these are things that happen, and then especially for a black man to be uh
Mm,
upfront and comfortable and even sought the help because a lot of us don't. We'll
don't.
deal with
Yeah.
these things and not get them acknowledged or attributed to something else when it could be just you have something that needs to be looked at. And like I said, we see him in a good space, so it's not like this has completely run his life into the dirt. He has learned how to manage it and live with it. So um it's definitely good. But in moving from uh Andrew's place to his new place, he got to go back and forth to get his stuff. So he and Issa head over to Andrew's to get his stuff, and when they get there, Molly is there. But before they arrive, Molly comes into the house, and this is when I knew Andrew was tired of her. This is I was like, oh, this is it. So she brought dinner. First off, oh, let me also take a step back. I don't know if you noticed, but she has keys to the house now.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. She did
cause
walk
she
up on
been,
in there.
yeah, she been coming and going. I noticed that when she came back to the house after the brunch, and then when she came home after work, like she all up in that piece. She's staying over there. She comfortable. Um, but she
She
brought home
should be.
dinner. Right, right. They've been dating for, if we're in February, it's about 5, 6 months now. So
Yeah, and it could be
yeah,
even further. We don't know when it is at
yeah.
this
We don't
point.
know when it
I mean, we
is.
didn't see
Yeah.
like Valentine's Day. I'm sorry, inside joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't know what. Normally, if you go to the grocery store, it's like that show Superstore. You'll be able to tell what month it is in California by the decorations that are in the store.
Yeah, well, we have no inclination as to what time
And
year it
no.
is. Um, but she brought home dinner. She brought uh Indian instead of the planned Chinese food.
Are you
and
trying to say that there's some kind of subtext there?
And well, no, I mean, it's one of those. Hey, I thought we had decided on something, and Molly and her Molliness was like, "Well, I don't like it, so we're not doing
Bump you.
that." Right, and not being considerate of him at all. And like, I think the nan is his breaking point. He ain't getting no nan, so he gonna be like, "Nah, I'm
Can't
tired
get
of
no
you."
man.
Right, you. Yeah, so in them discussing that, Nathan walks in the house with Issa, and there's this whole awkward moment. And
Because they had to stop.
initially,
They stopped fighting promptly.
right, 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 they cleaned it up real quick, Andrew and Molly, when Nathan and Issa came in, and it was an
Hmm.
awkward moment of, do they stay, do they go, and they end up staying.
Yeah.
And they're having like a replay of brunch because Andrew and Nathan don't know the full scope of what's been going on between the two. Molly's giving Andrew a peek into like, oh, it's superficial. It's just not that there. And he told her like, hey, you just need to try. You know,
Yeah.
let's make it happen for you two. So they're having like happy times. They're drinking wine, playing games, and um,
And they were really bouncing off of each other really well, even though it was like superficial. They were
mhm.
like, and then remember that time, and then like like it was like old home week. Like they had rolled right back into their normal behavior, even if it was surface level. I mean, it's still. I think that's a peek into their how close they really are. Even if they're feuding and it's surface level, it still rings better than most relationships.
Right. And I do remember last season when we were doing these episodes that I had an idea that there was going to be a double date between the four of them. And of course, I cast that to the side when Nathan ghosted her, but we ended up actually getting that moment in this episode. But yeah, they're having a good time. Everybody's laughing, having a good time. Uh,
Hmm.
they decide to play this game called Celebrity Heights, where you guess the heights of random celebrities, and if you get it wrong, you drink. And in doing so, they run out of wine. So,
Because don't
and
nobody know real celebrity heights. I really was surprised by Bernie Sanders, though.
randomly, I knew that Bernie Sanders was 6 feet. I
You
remember
always
being,
know random stuff.
yeah, being surprised by the information when I learned it. But yeah, I was also in the same kind of shock that they were when they found out. But yeah, Andrew gets up to go into the kitchen to get some more wine, and he kind of winks at Molly like, "Hey, good job, you're doing good. You're trying, you're making it happen." And
Hmm.
um, in him getting up, Molly goes to text him, which is, we all do this when you're texting somebody across the room about something that's happening in the room or things like that. But
Hmm.
in her attempt to send Andrew a message saying that, see, I'm trying with her, she inadvertently sends it to Issa because she's half paying attention to the game, half paying attention to her phone when she sends it. And have you ever done that?
Hmm.
Have you ever been talking about somebody and sent the message
I
about them
definitely
to them?
have. I've definitely sent like a long, like 4-page letter to the wrong person
Ooh,
before too.
you had a long time to
I
to
did.
figure out
That's
who you
what
were
made me
sending it
more
to.
mad is that I that's what made me more mad.
See, Apple will set you up because sometimes you'll be texting and then you'll jump out of the messages and somebody else will text you and you come back in and you go to finish it. But you type in what you finish in to the new person who texted you.
Uh-huh,
So
uh-huh.
normally it's not me talking about that person. It's just me. It's something that's completely nasty and out of context. And it
Yes.
happened to me like in the last week, and I was like, that was not meant for you at all.
Yes.
That and it's
Especially
just
if you're doing like a lot of back-to-back texts. Like if you're in group chats and like a bunch of messages, I definitely was like, "Do-do-do-do-do-do." Oh, that wasn't for you. And then I went and then I still did it again. And I was like, my bad, not for you again.
right.
And I was like, maybe I need to take a break. Separate these.
Right. Here's a life hack for that
Yes.
ass. If you on an Apple phone, I don't know about
Uh-huh.
anybody else. If you got an iPhone and you're sending a message to somebody who's uh it's not intended for, if you hit airplane mode in enough time, it'll
Oh my
stop the
God,
message
Kit.
from going.
That is a lot of work. I'm already devastated that it's going to the wrong. It's probably like the thin line. It's probably halfway there, but then you realize that like it's not like these messages got to download or anything. They go really fast
You like I said, you got to catch it. Gmail has that option too. You can add an option to where it'll give you like 3 seconds after you send it to unsend it.
to recall.
Yeah. And then I used to hate recall and Outlook because if I
It
was on the
never does.
receiving end and I see that recall, that means I'm gonna read the message now because
Why?
because Outlook tells on you. It'd be like such and such is attempting to recall this message. And I was like, oh no, they not. Let me read what they was about to say. So
Yeah, I definitely get mad when I think I recalled something and then I see all of the failed recalls. Yeah, that's not
yeah,
fun.
we all reading it. I want to see it now. It ain't got nothing to do with me. I still want to see it.
Yeah, okay.
um,
But it
but
was funny because in that moment, when she sent the message, I initially thought she was texting Andrew. But then when
mm,
I saw Issa pick up her phone, or like she had her phone already kind of like in her hand or something, and she was reading it, I was like, oh, she's messaging her. Like maybe, maybe she is coming around. And then when it was the message and it was clearly not for her, I was like, oh, shit.
right.
I was like, what is she gonna do? Because I was like, is she just gonna act like she never got it and let her? Because sometimes you just kind of like let people stew, like what just happened, and
Hmm.
eventually when she says like, "Oh, did you get my message?" and he said, "Nah,"
Right.
that could. But no, she went right ahead and said, this was not meant for me.
Right,
and,
right.
and promptly bounced.
Right. She's like, oh, I got to go. Like, she ain't even give no niceties about, ooh, my stomach hurt. I got to leave. No, I got to go. I'm out of here. Yeah, I don't know if I would have played it that way. I think I probably would have kept that message. And then when we left the name, be like, yeah, bitch, look, I got what you sent.
And
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't have replied back. I just would have left it and then I would have waited to see the look on her face when she realized that she sent the wrong message. And then I would
Hmm.
have been like, or I would have been like, oh, you know what? Something came up and leave and let her figure it out her on her own that she had sent the
Right.
wrong message. I don't think I would have been like, you sent the wrong message. I don't think that is me, but she's being more transparent and open. So she just was like, I got you.
Right.
I
Oh
got
no,
you in a couple ways.
I would have been up there. Oh, you know what? Let me eat the rest of y'all food. Let me drink up all Andrew good wine. Me run y'all out of house and home, and then as I'm
It's true
leaving
because
and
it
giving
wasn't
you a
Andrew's fault.
right. Look, as I'm hugging you with that fake hug, that superficial hug as I leave, then I'm gonna whisper in your ear and be like, "Yeah, I got that message," and then roll out.
Yeah.
No, I probably wouldn't have did that, but
I even
I
probably
definitely
would
would
have
have brought it
said,
up.
I would have even said to Nathan, like, hey, I think it's time to go. Do you want to roll
Yeah.
or are you staying here? Like, I would have, she just dipped on him too. She was like, bunk all of y'all. Like, they
Right.
all
Right.
collaboratively sent her that message. She was like, bunk all of you. I'm out of
Right,
here.
yeah, yeah. All her battery was drained in that moment, and she had to go and recharge somewhere else because she was not for it. And Molly and receiving the message from Issa like this wasn't meant for me, chases after her outside, and they finally address
Have it
the
out.
elephant in the room. They finally
Yeah.
talk about it, and you know, uh, Molly presents her with like, the new version of you and the new version of me, which I don't know if there's a new version of Molly. She's still the same way. I mean, other than the fact that Andrew that she's booed up with somebody, ain't nothing changed about her personality wise. But she
Right.
says, I don't know if the new versions of us fit anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming she was expecting like Issa to be groveling and be like, "Oh, I'm so
Or
sorry," but
like a
Issa was like,
rebuttal or something.
"Right,
Yeah. And
some
Ethan was
kind of
like, cool.
fight." Right? She was like, "Oh, okay," and I was like, "Well, what do you mean, okay?" But like, how if
What
you've
did
already
she?
made that statement, you
Yeah, like
know,
that was a final statement. Like that's something you say, but like to me, it felt like a breakup, and
hmm
that's something that you say at the breakup. Like it's not. Well, no, it's not you. That's not what you say. You say like, this just isn't working anymore, and then you go on about you break up. So
right,
I don't know what she had expected from saying that. The
right,
groveling doesn't fit.
yeah. And it's like they still don't have a resolution here because
Mm-mm.
they still haven't really talked about it. Because
Nope.
Issa's like, well, let's talk about the block party, and instead of doing it, that's when Molly throws her that we don't fit anymore statement. So it's clear that Molly doesn't want to do the work
No.
around resolution. She enjoys the fact that she has this to hold over Issa. And, as many people have said before, this is Molly's kind of lot in life when it comes to this relationship. She likes being on top of Issa. She likes having something to look down on her on. And now, as the opportunities for doing that are slowly dwindling away, all she has left is that Issa went behind my back. Um,
Yeah, and I still don't even like that bugs me so bad because I mean, I know we had discussed the other ways that should have been fine, but even if you thought that she went behind your back, she didn't.
hmm
Nathan asked him, and he didn't even care. He was like, "Oh, it was a simple email. Like it wasn't like she was like, I need you to help me move or something." Like it wasn't like a heavy lift for him by any means. It was an email to somebody he already kind of works with, and the guy was cool with it. Like
Right.
nobody did any hard labor, and it wasn't like she said, "Listen, I know I'm not supposed to talk to you, but it just wasn't all of that. It was a simple request, and it saved her, her big plans and her big event. And I don't know, like this whole thing just seemed weird and out of place.
Yeah.
And it's just good that at that point you said I had enough. It was done because in that moment, like especially like at the dinner or whatever when they playing this game and rehashing old things and they laughing and all this stuff. Like Issa was on a high. She was like, "We're back."
Mm-hmm.
So for her to send that message, she was like, "Oh, you had to try." Like I'm doing all this work and you think that you are trying right now. I'm good. I'm done.
Right.
I'm
Like I
done with
yeah,
this.
like it was just such a burden to be around her. Like it was I'm just doing you so wrong. Like I slapped your
Mhm.
mama. Like it's way bigger than well, Molly paints it as way bigger than what it actually is. And
Yeah.
at this moment I was like, you know what, the episode being named Lowkey Trying is apt because that's all Molly did was not actually like not a full
Try.
on try. It was a very low key. It was well, I went to the brunch.
Yeah.
I showed myself. I made myself available to be apologized to. Like, it's very minimal effort. Very like dragging your feet, and then running back and talking about her behind her back. Because all this episode, Molly was eye rolling, still
Uh-huh.
taking digs at her instead of addressing the problem.
But
So
taking digs, but like you said, like still saying like that's my best friend or whatever. Because even when they were fighting, she still wanted to keep up appearances because Issa said you got probably like 10 more minutes before this dude is through with you, and you can't blame nobody but yourself when he's
hmm
done with you. And she was right. And so I think in that second she snapped back and was like, "Oh, everything's great. Like, yeah, you should stay." Like her fakeness came on real quick
right.
and they acted like nothing ever happened. And look, if you're right, like your predictions have been, if Andrew dumps her, she will be alone and she won't have
hmm
anybody to blame but herself.
Yeah, I definitely think that in this last episode, she's gonna have a come to Jesus moment, and uh, all this frustration that's been pent up in Andrew since that Mexico trip is about to blow up. He gonna
Yeah.
be he gonna yell about that nan. He gonna want that nan, and he's fed up, and he has every right to be because she's being very
Unreasonable.
yeah, and hard headed. Like you're not trying. So why if you're not gonna try, don't even go to the brunch. Don't even fake. Like don't do all this extra energy and put the actual energy into figuring out if it's gonna work or not. Because
Yeah.
it's just tiresome. But yeah, he's over her. But we are one episode away from the season being done. The last
Mm,
episode is low key lost. So, uh, I know you said you watched the preview. It didn't
I
really give
did.
much.
It didn't. It did. It just gave a
Right,
bunch of images. It was like a Picasso of what might happen next week.
right.
I have no idea what's going on. But we didn't say this that yet that Lawrence sounds like he might have gotten the job. He said he did really well in his interview.
hmm
So maybe we find out in this next episode if he's gonna be moving north or not.
Right, right. And the one thing that I kind of got from that preview was that they were making it a is it Nathan, is it Lawrence kind of thing, which I honestly didn't expect to see Nathan as a character around this long. We know when we left at the end of the last season, I thought we were done, and then the fact that he popped up this season, I thought it was only because of Andrew's proximity. And since I always had in the back of my head that Molly and Andrew were going to break up, I didn't see any reason for him to be around that much longer. But looks
Hmm.
like he's around to stay, or maybe if she doesn't pick him, um, and this is his last season, who knows? We haven't seen anything about him being picked up by a show. So we
No,
don't know
no.
for sure.
I mean, he
But
was picked up. He was out in the protest. That's the only thing I've seen him. Well, I feel like I've seen him on something else though recently. No,
yeah.
um, I don't know, but I think he could still be around because he said, "I just want you in my life." So
Hmm.
they could still be friends. Like if her and Molly don't resolve by next week, she gonna need some friends.
Right. And now he's like permanently in LA. He's buying a barber shop. So he's got roots
Yeah.
here now. He's got his own place now too. So um if Molly and Andrew break up and it's the end of Andrew, since Nathan now has his own spot, he could very much be around for another season or so. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's we have a lot of things to close out, and we only got 30, maybe 40 minutes if they being nice next week to do it. Like I said, that preview didn't give much, but when I was on the HBO.com site looking up to see what the title was for the final episode, they had a little blurb about it, and it does say that the girls rally around a friend. So I'm assuming that's uh, Tiffany and this postpartum that we've been seeing kind of splash
Yeah.
throughout the season.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, still don't. It still didn't push. I didn't see any scenes with Issa and Molly in there, but Molly does say something about like being fed up with Issa in the preview. So
Well, good for her. She could be fed up
right,
because Issa been fed up for like 6 months. So she can finally be fed up on her own.
right. Yeah, and I think if we're using the last word of each of these episodes, this one is lost. So I see, Issa being unsure about, where the future's gonna take her with Nathan or Lawrence. Oh, also, very briefly, for like half a millisecond, if my eyes didn't deceive me, there's a scene in the next episode where they're out and about, and the young lawyer that Molly knew before pops up again. I thought I
Uh-huh.
saw him. So I'm sure that's intentional. Who
Why
knows?
you think that's gonna be her rebound?
That, or it could be
Oh no, but they
the
remember they said he likes white girls.
right. Well, she said she think he does. She don't know for
Uh-uh.
sure.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah,
So
he
he's
could
in
be the
charge.
rebound, or he could be the reason why Andrew's like, all right, you know what?
I'm
I'm through
done.
with you, right? Yeah, we definitely don't know. So uh there's
Well, I'm
that.
excited.
Yeah, feel good. This definitely feels like a full season. I'm glad they did what they did with the 10 episodes. So I'm excited for next week too.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it won't be a cliffhanger like we were saying. Like hopefully it'll be something that's final, not final, it's not final, but like something that kind of pulls most of the pieces together at least.
Mm.
I'll be fine if Issa and Molly don't end up friends at the end of the episode. I'll be fine with that. But I will be sad a little, not a lot, if Lawrence leaves. So
Yeah.
even if it's
Yeah.
like not final for them, like if it's just like because even though they're talking about him moving to San Francisco, it doesn't sound like they're not saying like, well then we'll be done then or something. It's they're still leaving it pretty open, I think.
And it could be a thing of, next season we explore long distance relationships, or who knows what could happen from that. But I definitely see if all the girls are coming together to rally around Tiffany, that it's going to be one of those moments where you move past,
You put your
you
things
know,
aside, your fighting
yeah,
aside.
it's a watershed moment. Like, okay, you know what, we better than this. Let's put things where they need to be, and be the friends that we are. So I feel like it's a setup for that. But yeah, everything else, I don't know what's gonna happen.
I'm up for it.
Yeah.
I'll
All
be
right.
watching on time.
So of course, thank you guys for listening to this week's recap. If you like what you heard, we appreciate you. do me a favor, leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. You can also leave comments for us on YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram at Ungentrified Pod. You can listen to this episode and older episodes on ungentrifiedpodcast.com or wherever you enjoy podcasts. And yeah, stay with us. We only got one more episode left. One more recap from us before we're gone for another year and some change. But yeah, so next week is Lowkey Lost, the season finale for season 4. But until then, peace out.
Bye.